G'day guys, it's Robbo and welcome to another edition of On The Grid. Today, for something different, I thought we'd have a look at building a podcast intro, something that everybody needs for their podcast, I guess, and maybe we don't always understand how to think about putting one together and maybe how to go about it even. So to sort of make that even more useful for you, I thought we'd do it in Audacity because that seems to be the door that a lot of people are using and are happy with. So let's jump on. Obviously, I've got an Audacity session open here and I've already loaded up a few bits and pieces. So let's just have a quick look at what we've got. I have written a script for the opener, which I sent to a good mate of mine, Paul Pidioni, who's a very well-known Australian voiceover artist, very busy Australian voiceover artist. And he kindly voiced something for me. It's just for a dummy podcast. I had a bit of fun with the script, as we'll see in a minute. And then the red file is my music file, and I've jumped onto Epidemic Sound, which is the royalty-free music service that I use, and I found a piece of music that I thought would work quite nicely. And then the track under that, the little green file, I just found a little whoosh, which we will use to sort of start the whole thing off with. So before we dive into actually building it, let's just have a look at the components that I've got here, and we can start talking about how we'd think about putting it together. So Paul kindly did 1 million takes of the script for me, which is lovely and very much Paul. So let's just have a listen to the first take, though. We will and we'll get into editing the voice tracks a bit later, but let's just have a listen and we can get our head around the script and what we're working with.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows. This is everybody's favourite podcast.
So that's our voiceover. Now, the music goes a bit like this. So that's our music, and then our little whooshy thing is just exactly that. Just a little whoosh. So let's go back to the music for a minute. The reason I picked this was because it has a nice flow to it, and it kind of builds towards the main theme down here towards the end. So to start with, we have this sort of little clock ticking, tick-tocky thing going on.
Get ready for a show that's
and then we sort of go into the musical part there, and then we have another little build here with a sort of a transition. And we go back into the music again, and then we have another little build down here. And then we go back into that sort of tick-tocky thing again. And then back into the theme. So thinking about what I wanted to do with the opener, which is I sort of wanted to launch the podcast with a grab from the episode that we're about to go into. So something to grab people's attention, hopefully hook them in. Then I'd like Paul to come on and do all the credits that need to be done, our sponsor credit, and sort of introduce the show. And then obviously we've got the final intro where he says, this is everybody's favourite podcast. So that's where we sort of, reveal the name of the podcast, I guess, for the first time listener or for people who are usually listen every week. It's, a reminder that that's the name of the show. And then we sort of want us to come on, or whoever the host of of the podcast is to come on and start speaking and introduce the episode. And usually it's nice to have some music that sort of fades down underneath them and just sort of carries on the theme of the intro for a minute or two until we sort of get into the podcast and we don't need that anymore. So thinking about that as the structure for our podcast intro and looking at what we've got in front of us, I kind of thought it would be nice to sort of start with the music bit here at the very beginning. I'm not sure that we need the little TikTok-y bit here, this bit. In fact, what we'll do is we'll just mute that off for a minute, the zip. So I kind of feel like we could get in, it would be nice to sort of get into it just there where that guitar and everything else comes in. So if we got rid of that and then used our little zip down here to start it all off, and we just zipped that down there, something like that perhaps, which isn't bad. I reckon we can probably, just for now, just drop the volume of our music. And probably the same for our effects. So this is the overall gain of the track that we're affecting over here too, by the way. So it's not mixing it as such. We're actually just sort of setting a balance, I guess, a gain balance on the mix. So that sounds okay for now. So let's just listen down. What I kind of hear here is, as I said before, the sort of a tease of the show. And then that little transition there, I kind of feel like that would be a nice little transition to Paul coming in and doing the bits that we've asked him to voice for us. So we should just slide him into place there and let's just see how that sounds. So we can get rid of this little sound here. This is just the beginning of his G and it's mostly low-end information, which is going to get lost anyway. So we can get rid of that. And then we're going to need to slide him back a little bit. And let's just have a look here. All right, so let's just have a listen to that.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet.
Doesn't sound too bad. I think it's kind of a little bit tight on here. I'd sort of like to let it that little transition just sit for a minute before Paul, or a second or two before Paul comes in. So let's just have a listen if we move it down a touch.
Get ready for a show.
Still maybe a touch tight. Let's have a look.
Get ready for a show.
And this is all personal taste, by the way. You'll decide what works best for you.
Get ready for a show that's...
I kind of feel like that's okay for now. We may play with that a bit more later on. But so let's just now go through and let's just edit up Paul and see what we need to do here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to edit this first take, and then later on we'll go through the rest of the takes if we sort of feel like there's some phrases in there that we might be able to find a better version of, or sort of aren't doing what we'd like them to do particularly. So let's just clean that off. We'll just move the rest of that out of the way for a minute. I think I've got it all.
Knows this.
Oh, no, I've chopped him off. We're going to need that part as well. So let's just grab that and bring that back here. And right. Okay. So let's just edit let's just edit him up here for now.
Show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by...
Okay, so there's a little breath in there. So we'll go in there and we'll get rid of that. Let's just go in and take that out. And just play with that.
It is surprising. Brought to you by...
Now we're moving it, because I've taken the breath out, we've sort of made a gap of silence where the breath filled the silence before. We've now made probably too much silence. So that's the reason that we sort of slide him down and tighten him up a little bit, just so that it's not such a sort of, I guess, a big pause between the phrases. And we want to sort of keep in mind the timing that he's used in terms of voicing this, because all voiceovers sort of have a timing in their head as they're voicing stuff. So let's just have a quick listen to that.
As it is surprising. Brought to you by...
And it's probably a touch tight. So let's, again, just
Surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside?
Okay, and there's another breath there, so we'll just take that out. It'd be so much easier if voiceover artists didn't breathe, but as much as I ask them, they seem to continue to do it. I don't know why, but anyway, there you go. So here we go.
Delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows.
And again, another breath there. So I'm only joking, by the way, about the breaths. I'm sure you know that.
It's a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows.
Okay, and I kind of feel like that one could take a bit more space.
Delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows.
And I kind of reckon we could open that up a little bit as well. Just to so what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get the flow of these voice tracks right. We want to sort of get them to a place where it sort of sounds really natural, and sort of gets us in and gives us a feel that we're looking for. We don't want this to be rushing. The music we've got underneath him is fairly relaxed and laid back, so we don't want Paul racing ahead or sounding like he's racing ahead with these edits. So that's what we're trying to achieve here.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows. This.
Okay, and then what I want to do, I want this to come after this little rise here, but we'll get to that in a minute. So I think our timing there is pretty good. I'm just kind of wondering now whether...
Get ready.
I'm wondering now whether we just don't slip him back a touch. Maybe there.
Get ready for a show.
I think that's better. Okay, so now what we want to do, we want to bring, what I want to do for my version of this is I would like to have him saying this after this sort of rise here. So the only problem with that, and we can fix it, but the problem I have at the moment is there's this big gap in here between that. So just have a listen. That's just way too long. So what we might do is we might see if musically we can make an edit here that's going to bring that up a bit tighter and sort of bring it all together timing-wise. So editing music seems daunting. And for those of you who know how to do it, this will be very elementary. But for those of you who don't, let's have a quick chat about editing music. Now, I'm sure everybody knows that editing has a tempo, which is the sort of the speed of the music. And music also has a timing. So most production music will be 4/4, which means 4 beats to the bar. So what we can do, and the easiest way to do it, is to find the first beat of the bar. And it will be fairly obvious if we have a listen to this.
Get ready.
So there's our first, you can, if I mute Paul here, you can hear the first beat of the bar here. It's that little dung. There's our first beat. So that's our one. Okay, so if we're counting beats, and I'll show you how this works. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. So our little sort of accent here that we're going to want to edit on is a 1. Now, when you're editing music, there's an upbeat and a downbeat. So 1 is an upbeat. Generally, 2 is a downbeat, 3 is an upbeat, 4 is a downbeat. That's how we get music dun, 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 up and down beat. So the easiest way to start getting a good edit is to edit a 1 beat to a 1 beat, or a 2 beat to a 2 beat, or a 3 beat to a 3 beat, or a 4 beat to a 4 beat. Try and keep your numbers in sync. As you get better at it, you will figure out ways where you can go from vary that up a bit from a 2 beat to a 4 beat. So what we're going to do here is we're going to try and find, we need to take out what do we need to take out? We want to try and take out a couple of seconds I'd say, or a second or two. So let's just see musically what we've got and how we can make that edit. So we've got this little piece here. Where is it? That one there. Or we could maybe even go there. Where is it? One, two. So that's a 2. So, oops, Pro Tools commands to Audacity doesn't really like that. So, and that looks like. So let's just have a look here. I kind of feel like we could probably cut from here. Let's just have a look. If we go in here and make that a little slice, and then let's just go out here.
What's inside? Only.
And maybe from here, let's have a look. That might be pretty close, I reckon. If we go in there like that. And let's just take this out and slide this down. And we're looking pretty close as long as that edit's working. Let's have a quick listen. Okay, that's not too bad. We can tidy that up a little bit. Let's just have a quick look here. If we zoom in, and we will just take a quick look here. Let's just trim that a touch and bring that down a touch. Okay, and then we can smooth that transition out by just opening this up a little bit. And then I reckon if we did a fade like that. Oops. Maybe we won't. We might just leave it like that for a minute because I think...
Ice is a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows.
Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, the only thing we might do here is just give ourselves a bit of space. Let's have a look.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows.
There we go. That's kind of nice. And then I think what I want is our this to sort of come in and sort of just a little bit of suspense. We can just leave it just a little bit of time just to think about it.
What's inside? Only Fred knows. This.
Okay, so what we might do is we might bring it back a touch.
Only Fred knows. This.
And then what might be nice is if that little last chime is our cue for pizza to...
Only Fred knows. This is everybody's
favourite podcast is what he should be saying. And there we go, a bit like that.
Only Fred knows. This is everybody's favourite podcast.
Okay, and so then what I would like Paul to do, is, the music to do, is I want to get rid of this gap here. So I want this music to sort of come back in as soon as he's announced the name of the podcast. So let's just have a quick look how we can do that.
Is everybody's favourite podcast.
Okay, so obviously we're going to want to try and cut around there somewhere. Let's just have a quick look. Oops. In here somewhere. There we go. So we'll go there, and then let's go down here and see. Maybe if we could take out most of that, that might go close. So let's have a quick look here. What can we do? There's our little tick-tock timer. And we can now get rid of that. And we can slide that up there. And let's have a look now. All right, we put Paul back in.
Knows. This is
Oops, got that highlighted.
Is everybody's favorite podcast.
Okay, so what we might do now is we might just give these a bit of a crossfade, which might hopefully make those sit together a bit better. So let's do that, and then crossfade.
Is everybody's favorite podcast.
Okay, and then we'll slide Paul back again just a tiny bit.
This is everybody's favorite podcast.
Cool. And then what we want to do is that's where our host is going to come in, whoever that may be. So what we want to do now is just, once those little drums have finished, is just fade that so that it's ready for our voiceover. Ready for our host. So let's just have a quick listen.
This is everybody's favorite podcast.
Something like that. So let's go back now and just have a listen from the top and see how we've gone so far.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows. This is everybody's favorite podcast.
Right, there we go. So let's turn our attention back to Paul now just for a minute, because as usual, he's done a sterling job with the read, but there's probably a couple of things I'd like to see if we have a better version of. Let's just play it from the top again.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every...
Now, he comes in a bit hard here with the brought to you, if we have a listen to that.
It is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise.
So I'd like to see if there's just a smoother version of that. That's just a little bit jarring. So let's just see if he's given me a smoother version of that.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where
Not one there. Let's have a look in the next take.
Everybody's favorite podcast. Get ready. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise.
There, let's have a look down here.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by...
That's a better one. There we go. I like that one. Let's go down here.
Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise.
Cool. So we will take that. We don't need the breath, however. So let's just grab that and take it down here with us. If I can get hold of it. In fact, what we might do is we might just cut it. There we go. And we will go down here.
Only brought to you by...
And let's zoom in here and let's just paste it there. Oops, we've taken out the whole thing now. Let's not do that.
The cake shop. Fred's Big Surprise.
Okay. I'm giving Pro Tools commands to Audacity, so I apologize. Here we go. Okay, so let's take that out then. Oh, come on. There we go.
Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside?
There we go. So we just need to spread this out again a touch, and we should be getting close. Let's have a look.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows. This is everybody's favorite podcast.
Cool. So let's have a listen to that now.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows. This is everybody's favorite podcast.
Okay, I think we might just slide this back a little bit, because what I'd kind of like to do is feature those three little chimey things that go in there. So let's just see if we can do that.
What's inside? Only Fred knows. This is everybody's favorite podcast.
Okay, and maybe we can bring him back a touch now.
Only Fred knows. This is everybody's favorite podcast.
So look, as you can see, this is all now personal taste. This is all now just up to you about how you'd sort of like it to sound and how you want to finesse it. And we could probably finesse it a bit more than there, but for the sake of this tutorial, I kind of feel like we're in a pretty good place. So let's just have one more quick listen down. If I unhighlight that.
Get ready for a show that's as sweet as it is surprising. Brought to you by Fred's Big Surprise, the cake shop where every slice is a delicious mystery. What's inside? Only Fred knows. This is everybody's favorite podcast.
Cool. I think we're in a pretty good place. So we don't need any more of those takes from Paul, so we can get rid of those. And then what we want to do is we just want to we don't need a lot of this music, so maybe there's this little transition down here. We'll just take it down to there, and we'll take the back of that off. And then what we'll do is we will grab, highlight a touch of that, and we will put a fade on that as well. So that will fade out nicely. Cool. So I think we're looking pretty good there. I think what we might do is we'll leave it there, and we'll come back next week and we'll do a part 2 and we'll go through the mix process. I hope you enjoyed that, and just remember, if you need a hand with making your own podcast, you can always just ask Robbo at justaskrobbo.com, and we'll catch you next week for part 2.